Barr, William Barr, is going to go down as one of the best attorney generals we've ever had. And this man is not Trump's lackey. He is simply upholding the rule of law. You cannot use a Steele dossier to deceive FISA judges. You cannot use opposition research as the basis. And I'm talking about Alexander Downer, not just the Steele dossier. Why isn't Alexander Downer? Why isn't he even mentioned in the in the Mueller report? Why isn't Alexander Downer the man who spoke to Papadopoulos? Why wasn't he interviewed by Mueller? Why wasn't Natalia Veselnitskaya interviewed by Mueller? Why wasn't Joseph Mifsud interviewed by Mueller? You should have these people testifying before Congress. These were the links between President Trump and Putin. So, you're going to hear right now William Barr. You're going to hear William Barr, and there's a great interview that everyone is talking about with Bill Hemmer on Fox, and he goes through everything. He even asks Nancy Pelosi, "Hey, where's your handcuffs? Thought you were going to take me away." I mean, he is the man. But you have somebody who is simply upholding the rule of law. You cannot utilize a Steele dossier and a third party, just gossip and hearsay from somebody that has nothing to do with the United States government. And then when James Baker, by the way, is under criminal investigation, who John Durham was already investigating before William Barr made him an official prosecutor in official probes of Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, Brennan, all of them. When James Baker on CNN, the top FBI legal counsel who agreed with me, wanted to indict Clinton but was overruled by Comey, when he says, "Well, gosh, we didn't go after Papadopoulos until a whole bunch of things. We were so worried about Russian interference and Russia's plans to stifle and to meddle in our election." This is all nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. The meddling is to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated by Democrats. The foundation of this propaganda. They have masked their own misdeeds within a cloak of Russian interference. No, you should never have known that Bernie Sanders, who is now a coward, who is fomenting the same belief that Russia informed the country he was cheated. But you should not know that, you just shouldn't know that Russia wanted you to learn that Bernie Sanders was cheated. This is actually a plot by another country to inform you that a Democratic candidate who would have won in a fair primary, even Noam Chomsky states that, he would have won in a fair primary, and I was right. In a fair primary, he would have won. Without a cover-up, Clinton would have been indicted. She's going to eventually get indicted. She's running again, ladies and gentlemen. She will run again. I am the only person stating this categorically, and at least if there's anybody else, I have been the only person stating this since 2017. And when it happens, please let everybody know. I've been telling you and tell everybody now. Clinton is running again. All of this was to pave the way and make everything morally relative. You have an actual criminal who committed crimes, who had her crimes covered up by James Comey. Then what they did was they had to make everything morally relative and say, well, Trump has worked with the Russians. It's absurd. Only the biggest imbeciles agree with that. Yeah, well, Democrats. I explained in my Federalist articles below, they had no evidence. They never had any evidence. The Mueller probe was a bunch of nonsense, a rehash of the ODNI and DHS reports that James Clapper admits have no certainty and no guarantees. But let's listen to William Barr. He's pretty awesome. He is pretty awesome, and this is actually fantastic. So let's check this out.
Remember, Nancy Pelosi calls him out as a liar for his testimony on the Hill back in April and the 1st and 2nd of May. That aspect of this, because you are...
So, he's talking about them trying to undermine, trying to discredit him because they don't like the fact that Mueller declined to prosecute Trump, Trump Jr., or anyone else under either any statute pertaining to obstruction and any statute pertaining to collusion, because there was no evidence to begin with. William Barr confirms, and he states that, yeah, there are probes, there are investigations, and it's all going down. He does so in a roundabout diplomatic manner. But this is a fantastic interview where he clowns Pelosi. This is hilarious. Check this out.
Are being heavily criticized by Democrats, by the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She believes you lied under oath. What do you think of that charge?
Well, I think it's a laughable charge, and I think it's largely being made to try to discredit me, partly because they may be concerned about the outcome of a review of what happened during the election.
They might be concerned about the outcome of a review. Now, he is being very generous with them. You don't hire a prosecutor who put away an FBI agent linked to Whitey Bulger in Boston. You don't put away you don't hire John Durham and appoint him as a special prosecutor, where John Yoo yesterday, high-level Justice Department official during the Bush administration, who defended a whole bunch of bad things that I can't even say, not even YouTube policies to allow me to get into. But even John Yoo said, yeah, this is a criminal probe. This is a criminal probe. They engaged in crimes. It is a crime to utilize a dossier written by a political opponent and then utilize that dossier to obtain warrants on American citizens. You cannot do that. That is a crime. That is against the law. It is also against the law for James Comey to leak classified memos. It is also against the law for Peter Strzok to take matters into his own hands. When he says, we will stop Trump, that is against the law. It's not against the law to text, we will stop Trump. It's against the law to text, we will stop Trump, alongside obvious behavior and actions taken to stop Trump. At a certain point, you're not good. Look, every step of the way, it's been, this is against protocol. This was a bizarre thing. Well, that was strange. That was unorthodox. This is bizarre. That was strange. Usually, they tell the American official who is suspected of having a plant or a spy. They told Dianne Feinstein, but they didn't tell President Trump. Then you have James Baker saying, we just didn't want to think that we were engaging in blackmail with President Trump. So that's why we showed him the Steele dossier right before the inauguration. Really? Why didn't you show him the Steele dossier when he had already won the Republican primary? What a bunch of lying thieves these people are. What the most corrupt, and their answers to all these questions are nonsensical and irrational. I say, we showed him the Steele dossier before the inaugural because we didn't want him to think that we were blackmailing him. That's exactly what you were doing. Why didn't you show him the Steele dossier when he had already won the Republican primary? Why didn't you inform him that you were investigating him? Why did you obtain warrants? Why did you spy on every person connected with Trump, tap their phones without anyone committing a specific criminal act? And without anyone linked to the alleged hacking of the DNC. So it's one thing to say, the DNC was hacked, which is what James Baker, they all say, the DNC was hacked, we were looking all over the place, it was an above board, it was a fair investigation. Then why didn't you inform President Trump? And why did you have to outsource all the evidence? The United States intelligence community, quote-unquote community, has billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of dollars, and not one shred of U.S. intelligence, nothing derived from the FBI, NSA, or any other agency, was utilized in these sprawling probes. Here's why. If you read the ODNI and DHS reports, I link the warranty disclaimers in my latest Federalist article with James Clapper about James Clapper not being, knowing there was no evidence. In the warranty disclaimers of the Department of Homeland Security and the Office of Director of National Intelligence reports, which all the liberal pundits have not read, nor will they ever read, they state categorically the United States government does not stand by its claims, is not certain, nor do they stand by, nor will they be legally bound by any claims made. It's the biggest bluff, the biggest poker bluff of all time. And Trump's calling their bluff. He's going after yet again Clinton, deleting 33,000 plus emails, even emails that were subpoenaed. Okay? And he's going after them. He fights back. But let's listen to this. He basically listen to what he says to Pelosi.
What does that mean?
That means they may be trying to undermine my credibility, but obviously you can look at the face of my testimony and see on its face that there's nothing inaccurate about it.
You reportedly had a conversation with her this week.
Yes.
What did you say to her?
I wouldn't call it a conversation. It was more like an icebreaker. I was introduced, and I asked her if she had brought her handcuffs with her.
And she said?
I didn't really quite hear what she said, but...
Did you bring your handcuffs? Can you imagine Pelosi? Now put your hands behind your back. I got these cuffs that are used against me and when office hours are over. Okay, Barr, get on your knees and put your hands behind your back. We're taking you in. Schiffy Schiff and Nadler are going to escort you to the jail that doesn't exist in Congress.
But she wasn't unpleasant about it.
Which she will say, and Democrats will say.
I like Bill Hemmer. He's great, but who cares what they say? Listen, at this point, I'm starting a website, Defeating TDS, Defeating Trump Derangement Syndrome. It's being built right now. You will be able to defeat any absurd claim. Trump is a racist. I'll give you every link to CNN, to MSNBC, to the New York Times, to every link that undermines that claim. And that shows that... Then there'll be one section that undermines the claim directly and one section that gives you the context. Where, in terms of rhetoric and deed and behavior, the Hillary Clinton and Democrats are far more racist, far bigger hypocrites when it comes to the environment. Everything else, the largest expansion of oil and gas production took place under President Obama. Then we have to see Bill Nye and AOC and all of them pontificate. Are you kidding me? Same thing. I mean, with every major topic, Russia collusion, I'll give you every link, mostly from liberal sources, just so you can show your liberal friends. Here you go, CNN. Here you go, New York Times, cash flow to Clinton Foundation amid Russian uranium deal. Okay, yellow cake uranium shipped out of the country. Here you go. It will be your own little think tank. Your own little think tank. And that's, actually, I just came up with that tagline. Your own little think tank to just defeat any family member who's rabid or a coworker, a friend, or whatever, if you have to go there. But anyway, Trump's economy, oh my God, I'll give you every link. And what I'm debating is whether to just make it liberal sources or maybe also include Fox News in there. But I think it's probably going to lean to just liberal sources because there's enough in terms of the just publications of record. Like they do have to report sometimes, and when they report information, it undermines their propaganda. They just don't realize it. But anyway, you check that out. It'll be subscription based, but you will be able to, if you're not subscribed, to get some information. But for all the information to truly defeat To truly defeat anyone in a debate, it'll be subscription based, but you'll love it. It'll be worth it. But here you go.
Is that you were spinning on behalf of the president with the principal conclusions that you released. They leveled charges that you held back the Mueller report for several weeks. Were you spinning for the White House to buy some time?
No, I wasn't. I think what they're really perhaps annoyed about is that they didn't have an opportunity to spin, and that the fundamental findings of the report were out there for everybody to see, and they were not in a position to spin.
Bill Hemmer.
So, don't you love that? Don't you love that?
We're covering a lot of ground in his interview with Bill Barr.
Met with them.
President, take a listen here.
I didn't know him before. I had only met with him.
He's talking about President Trump.
Really a substantive discussion with him at the time he decided to appoint me Attorney General. But I think we have a good, candid relationship.
Just one more question on that. You met with him in the Oval Office?
No, I met with him in the residence.
In the residence. And that went well?
Yeah.
Did he hire you on the spot?
I'm not going to get into the
reason I asked you that is Democrats would charge that you are the president's attorney now.
Yeah, that's what Eric Holder and Attorney General Loretta Lynch were. They were President Obama's attorney generals. Same with the Attorney General for Bush, Alberto Gonzales. You have you lost the election because you cheated Bernie Sanders, then you blamed Russia. And guess who's running again? Hillary Clinton. You're going to lose again. And every single thing that I've ever said will be vindicated beyond belief. Not only the moment she runs, but the moment she loses again. Clinton, look, you got to understand something, okay? Go ahead below in the comments section. Give me your favorite football team, your favorite baseball team, your city baseball team, or just your favorite football or baseball team or hockey team. What team do you root for? Okay, now just put it down in the comments section. Now let me ask you a question. Who's the owner of the team? Who's the GM? Do you think they look at the team, that your favorite team, your team you've been rooting for? It could be a college team too. The athletic director, do you think he looks at or she looks at the team the same way you do? The owner, the general manager. You think they look at your hometown, baseball team, your hometown football team, hockey team the way you do? No. Clinton views the country as a team that she owns. Both of them. Her husband was president for 8 years. She not only was in positions of power that she had no business being near. Christopher Hitchens was 100% right when he stated that in 2008. But she was first lady. She was his senator. She was able to get away with crimes as a secretary of state. Her husband was the team owner. She was the GM or whatever. Every other vice president of operations, whatever. They look at the team differently from you. So if another city is going to build a stadium, they'll move to the other city. I mean, what I'm trying to say is they don't look at the country the way you and I do. They don't look at the United States of America the way you and I do. So when people say, she would never run again, nobody likes her, she could never win, there is no Democratic Party. Remove that from your brain. Stop it. Stop it right now. Stop it. Stop it. Stop saying stop acting like there's a Democratic Party and they're just part of it. No. Donna Brazile literally wrote in Politico that essentially Hillary Clinton controlled the DNC in 2016. That control is obviously far greater now. Why? You think she's going to knock on doors for Botox Biden? Botox Biden is the only reason he's up is because everyone else, from Bernie Sanders and every clone of Bernie Sanders, They're running on the fumes of Bernie in 2016 prior to when he kissed the ring and then promoted the same nonsense and Red Scare and Cold War hysteria. McCarthy-era madness. Bernie Sanders is a good human being, but he's a coward. And history will view him to be a coward. He promoted a myth that said Russia cheated Democrats by informing the country that he was cheated. Only a coward would do that. And don't say, oh, well, he's playing ball, he's working with Democrats, and now we have AOC. Yeah. yeah. Now you have AOC, who's enamored with the garbage disposal. Now you have... Do you ever wonder why the poll came out? Young people... Bernie's lost support with young people. Why? Because you have the biggest imbeciles as pundits who've taken over that movement. I wrote in the Huffington Post this would happen. And I put all the culprits there. And I thanked that big organization. Well, I didn't thank them, but I said they elected Trump, which, in hindsight, I'm a Trump supporter, thank God. You get cheated. And then you claim that actually it was Russia who informed the country that you were cheated as a plot to cheat the same people who cheated you. And you say, well, I did this for Medicare for All. Well, it's May 17th. You think, I thought people were perishing. You think maybe... Then you have the liberal pundits. You know, man, every other country has it. Yeah. And they can do it, and it's totally feasible. Then do it. Have Trump veto it. What's the problem? Are you afraid? Or do you know that you just have... Are you comfortable with the fact that Pelosi and Clinton, everyone who runs the DNC, or Clinton, let's say... because she does run everything. But why haven't they implemented Medicare for All? Ever wonder why? Because A, it's not feasible, but let's say I'm wrong about that. They're using it as a carrot to deceive young voters. And young people are actually removing themselves from this nonsense. They're like, yeah, Bernie Sanders is played out. That's the latest poll. Young people like fighters. They like people who fight. That's why Trump is like a counterculture type of figure. Being independent, even conservative, even a Trump supporter is now a counterculture type of thing. But anyway, we can go on forever. Clapper, Brennan, Comey, Strzok, McCabe, all of them. You know who they relied on? Bernie Sanders. Now, what would have happened if Bernie Sanders had said, wait a second. Even if Russia had cheated me, even if Russia had hacked the Democratic National Committee to inform the country that Deborah Wasserman Schultz had cheated me, isn't that a good thing in a way? Because I was cheated. It wasn't a fair primary. My voters gave $200 million down the tubes, down the drain. There was a DNC fraud lawsuit that Jared Beck, Elizabeth Beck, and Nico House waged. Thank you, all three of you. Thank you for representing. And oh, by the way, Julian Assange, God bless you. You're a journalist and a publisher. You should be protected. Oh, and Trump is bringing Americans home. He wants to. Good for him. I support him on that. That's an alternate universe Bernie Sanders that actually had a spine. Oh, the Daily Beast and Vox and all of them, and the New York Times and the Washington Post, and all of them are saying I'm part of a Russian plot because I'm not playing ball. I should be part of a Russian plot because I was cheated? You have another thing coming. No, you got another thing coming. Dun. I'm gonna create a new movement with Jill Stein. Let's see if you can take us on. That is an alternate reality with Bernie Sanders who had a spine. Now he promoted the Russian hacking myth. he helped plunge us into a new Cold War with the Red Scare, hysteria, McCarthy-era hysteria. The most absurd, nonsensical, Russia hacked the DNC to inform the country that Bernie Sanders was cheated, and then the Facebook ads influenced people in swing states because, we had, she won the popular vote, she really won. They say they don't even know that they don't even know how their propaganda undermines itself. If you take the propaganda to its logical conclusion, it always undermines itself, the left. No, I'm not going to work with Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Clapper, and Brennan. You think they want Medicare for all? They're an authoritarian element of the United States government. This is, by the way, the only... This is, like, if Bernie Sanders had spoken like this and had done this, not only would he be an icon, he could have literally started something with Jill Stein, and you know what, thank God he didn't, because then I would have been swept into all the other nonsense that I disagree with now. Like this obsession against the Jewish state. But obsession against Israel, which is what, Democrats have, like, completely lost their minds over, because a small segment of Democratic Party lacks historical, they have no concept of history, have zero concept of history, and zero concept of irony also. The same people who claim to be fighting against, starts with an N, ends with an I can't even say it on YouTube, I don't even want to risk it, are the same people who hate the country that I had my bar mitzvah in. So there you go. They don't understand it. They live in a Twitter theocracy. Anyway, let's continue.
They don't know what they're talking about.
Why does it keep on? Okay.
After he delivered his report, when we had a telephone call, but there's no.
So that's been several weeks.
Yeah, but that's not because of any strain between us or anything.
Your relationship goes back 30 years. How is it today?
I haven't had the opportunities.
He's talking about his relationship with Mueller.
Spent much time with him since he took on the assignment. I haven't spent time with him since he took on the assignment, but I would say we're still friends.
Another topic here on his relationship with the president. There's been a lot of criticism from Democrats that he's doing the president.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about.
Did you think that Eric Holder was the attorney for President Obama?
I think Eric Holder at times did act that way, but attorney generals are frequently accused of that.
Is it like Bobby Kennedy and JFK from the early 60s?
I mean, attorneys general are accused of being that way, but
they're trying to say that he's basically explaining, hey, look, I'm not Trump's attorney. I'm upholding the rule of law. What takes place is they committed crimes, major crimes, utilizing this 18 U.S. Code 371. I explained that in my Federalist article. Explained the crimes that he committed, that they all committed. Clapper, Brennan, Strzok, all of them. You can't utilize the United States government under the pretext of, well, we were worried about interference. You haven't even stated with certainty the DNC was hacked. You're relying on a CrowdStrike assessment, and they were outsourced by Democrats.
But I'm not sure exactly what they're referring to. Well, when I was up for confirmation, I promised that I was going to make the report available. I didn't have to. The report was supposed to be confidential. I said I would err on the side of transparency. I got it out.
They weren't even owed the report. They were not even owed the report.
Minimal redactions. Every American can now read it to their heart's content and make up their mind about it.
So, it's pretty unbelievable. It's pretty unbelievable the duplicity of Democrats. It's really, really unbelievable, the duplicity. But it's like, I mean, Let's see. Hold on. Let's see.
And I did say the White House cooperated, and what I was referring to there was the truly unprecedented delivery of information in the form of millions of pages of documents and the ability to interview White House staff, including the president's White House counsel.
Do you think President Obama's administration would be allowing a special counsel to interview White House staff based on a dossier or a gossip from an ambassador, from an Australian ambassador named Dumbo Downer? You think that would happen? And you think the media would go along with that? We already know the journalists who are part of everything. We already know.
Is no holds barred, no privilege claimed at that point or anything. So that was unprecedented, and that's what I was referring to when I said the White House.
So you find that satisfactory on behalf of the White House?
It's more than satisfactory. And Bob Mueller obviously felt it was satisfactory.
And that's the main thing. Bob Mueller, he states, look, they're trying to claim that there was a cover-up. How can there be a cover-up when Mueller himself refused to indict anyone? And he didn't say, well, Trump didn't mean to collude. James Comey stated, well, Clinton didn't mean to commit all the crimes she committed with top secret intelligence on her servers with special access program intelligence. She didn't mean to. She didn't have the intent. Yes, she did. She didn't care. U.S. Code 793F says, you know what? Even if you don't care, it's still a crime.
Reached his conclusions in this report.
Let me come back to that point. The president calls this a witch hunt. He calls it a hoax. Would you agree with that?
Well, as I've said.
Now, this is the end of this segment, and let people know by the end of the segment, the most important part takes place.
If you were the president, I think you would view it as a witch hunt and a hoax, because at the time he was saying he was innocent and that he was being falsely accused. And that's, if you're falsely accused, you would think that something was a witch hunt. I have to say,
he was being falsely accused. Notice how Jeff Sessions never said that. Gee, I wonder why. William Barr categorically states he was being falsely accused. Now he's going to ask questions. Now those questions need to be answered. Now if he gets answers that lead him to more questions, he knows very well people are going to be indicted. He knows very well that he's going to indict people. He knows very well the legal statutes, the 18371.
When you step back and look at this, two and a half years of his administration, 3 years of Trump, the campaign and then the first part of his administration, he has been hammered for something, for allegedly conspiring with the Russians. And that we now know that was simply false.
Are you comfortable using those words?
That was simply false. He never conspired with Russia, but others conspired to undermine him. And that's the legal statute that they try to use against him. That's the statute I talk about. Defrauding Americans. In my Federalist article below.
Witch hunt? Hoax?
I use what words I use, and it was an investigation, but I think if I had been falsely accused, I'd be comfortable saying it was a witch hunt.
You mentioned Bob Mueller a few moments ago. Were you surprised that he came back with no recommendation on that obstruction charge? Hold up. Jerry Nadler said this week it will happen soon. Perhaps it happens in June or not. Do you have...
So he states, yeah, he was surprised, but I'm trying to find out
any information on that?
My understanding is that Chairman Nadler is talking this over with Bob Mueller and his...
in that report.
I don't want to speculate because I just don't know.
Do you believe he gave in any of that pressure?
I don't want to speculate.
Do you believe members of Mueller's team around him put pressure on him?
All right, so then there's a part in here where he goes, he's like, look, let's see if I can
for Trump. Do you think that's true?
Again, I'm not going to speculate about their motives.
In the period of time between Election Day and the inauguration, did anyone in government or in intelligence, did they take action to justify their decisions?
Between Election Day, did you say?
Between Election Day of 2016 in November and Inauguration Day.
I think there were some very strange developments during that period. That's one of the things we want to look into.
Strange developments could easily mean illegal activity, which is what it means. That's what he's referring to.
Such as?
Such as the handling of the meeting on January 6th between the intelligence chiefs and the president, and the leaking of information subsequent to that meeting.
The leaking of information is illegal, and it was meant to foster hysteria among a rabid, scorned liberal media. And it fomented the belief that, oh my goodness, there's smoke. Where there's smoke, there has to be Trump working with Russia. You're talking about the biggest nonsensical hoax, irrational, absurd, illegal, and insidious propaganda spin that we've ever had as a country. Because we've had some horrible propaganda spins. But we've never utilized the government against an incoming candidate. Whether you like Trump or not is irrelevant. And Democrats are smart enough to know this. I remember speaking to a whole bunch of people in 2017, 2016, friends of mine, and they would gleefully say, well, there's going to be an investigation. We have to wait till the investigation is over. They knew. Don't be coy. Don't be, gleeful. And at the end of the day, they didn't get what they wanted because they knew very well they were only doing it to hurt Trump.
Was that meeting in New York City?
Yes.
In Trump Tower?
Yes.
What questions do you have about what happened that day?
Again, I'm not going to get into that.
But it's on your mind.
That's one of the things we need to look at.
Can you characterize how far advanced you are in understanding that meeting?
We're still in the stage of gathering all the information.
Remember?
Gathering all the information, then he says we have questions. I have questions.
And I did say the White House cooperated, and what I was referring to there was the truly...
All right, so he's talking about questions and questions that he has and questions that he has, and ladies and gentlemen, none of this is going to work out well for Democrats. You're going to have indictments of Comey, Strzok, McCabe, Brennan, Clapper, Baker, all of them. At least some of them or all of them. Eventually, Clinton will run, she will lose, and then she'll get indicted. Because you can't... Look, I'm not even... You're talking about when she runs again? You're talking about potential crimes she commits as she runs. Like in 2020. I mean, you can't... It's like a fighter going into a fight. If he has tendencies or bad habits, and he goes up against one thing Trump has is a lot of patience. Even though he seems like an impulsive guy, he actually has patience. Anybody who could withstand the Mueller team 2 years of just rabid, nonsensical, overt attacks, political attacks, you have a lot of patience. One thing Clinton doesn't have is patience. She's already basically stated that she's, I've done a million videos saying she's running. I do some more, but people are like, the title of the videos, they're just like tired of me saying she's running. I'm telling you, she's running again. When she runs again, who knows? I mean, you're talking about impulse, whether it's campaign finance violations. I mean, AOC, there's money funneled into corporations. That's the epitome of dark money. And if there's even questions with AOC, Clinton, I wrote in the Daily Caller, should have been indicted under campaign finance reform. She had political action committees that were extensions of her campaign. Correct the Record was essentially an extension of her campaign. But anyway, hit subscribe. Thank you so very much. Like I always say, Black Conservative Patriot is amazing. Subscribe to his channel. Nick DiPaolo is awesome. He's a great political voice. He's a hilarious comedian. Subscribe to his channel. My Patreon is below if you want to support my voice long term. It's in the pinned comment along with my writing in the Daily Caller, the Jerusalem Post, and the Federalist. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very, very much. It's happening, ladies and gentlemen. William Barr he's fighting back, but not for Trump. William Barr is an establishment figure. he's doing this because he realizes that Democrats have overstepped their boundaries. It's not about good versus evil. You get that out of your head. And anyone who tells you this is about good versus evil, it's not. It's not. If Democrats had not investigated Trump while he was president, this would not be taking place. Not about good versus evil. It's about Democrats overstepping their boundaries, and a person like William Barr, who's an establishment figure, very establishment, an establishment Republican figure, saying, wait a second, we have to clean this up. This is too much. Because it's now hurting the Paul Ryans of the world. So, yeah, Trump is fighting back, and he is the fuel behind all of this. But at the end of the day, the Republicans are like, wait, there's too much corruption, there's too much criminality. We have to put an end to this. Give me your thoughts below. Thank you so much.